Hello, everybody, and welcome to another AMA by Presale World. Today we're hosting Novation Launchpad and Exchange. I'm Ant and we'll be talking with Chris. But before we get there, just a little bit of housekeeping as per usual. We are Presale World with a one-stop shop to find pre-sales from across the market, from the biggest launchpads, including Pink Sale, Unicrypt, Gempad, Cookie Sale, DX Sale, Novation now as well, and of course our very own launchpad here at Presale World. We are the fastest growing launchpad, so do check us out at presale.world, or if you are looking just to find that next gem, again, presale.world is your place. Right, let's jump straight back into the AMA. We'll see you there. So let's get the AMA started then. So for anyone that missed the beginning bit, we're Presale World. We're hosting Novation today, which is part of Vault Finance. But to start off, Chris, give us an introduction of yourself, give us an introduction of the team, rather than the project itself. Just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. So I'm Chris Esparza. I'm the CEO. I'm here in the United States. I'm out of Dallas, Texas. By trade, I'm actually a healthcare professional. I'm actually a doctor, but I've been a lifelong entrepreneur, and pretty much, I've always started businesses from scratch, built them up, take market share, done things like that. So I'm not in the practicing capacity now to where I'm seeing patients, but I run my company, MedComp Associates, which is a revenue cycle management company that pretty much helps hospitals, hospital systems, surgery centers, practitioners, helps them be efficient in being able to handle their finances and make money, but also to handle insurance and fist fight the insurance on their behalf as well too. So I've kind of flipped over from being a provider to being a provider for the providers. But I've always loved entrepreneurship. I've always had a passion for finance, and so it really is just one of those things that as I started to move from stocks and stock options and start to take a closer look at crypto, when pretty much I think a majority of people started to take a closer look, I started to get more and more involved and just fell in love with DeFi, and here I am now. So, when I started Vault Finance, I wanted to make sure that we upheld a certain professionalism, that we upheld transparency, and that we brought together people of the right character. And so, my core team, they're great guys, and on top of that, they're very good at what they do. So, I'm not sure if any of them are in the room. If they want to, well, I'll introduce them for them. So, my CBO, Chief Business Officer, is Mason. Mason has been associated with other good projects, helping them out in teams. He's out of the United States as well on the East Coast, but he's got a background in entrepreneurship, so he knows a lot about business. He knows a lot about growing businesses and marketing. Uh, Alongside us is also Ross. He's my Chief Operation Officer. He's out of Ireland. He has a background in finance, so he knows a little bit about the financial sides of things as well too. And then we have a stud on our team with our chief technology officer, Matt. Matt is man, he is a field general, and so I think people who know him in this space know his character. It pretty much speaks for itself, and that not only is he a fantastic dev, but he is also a fantastic person as well too. So we're really excited to have him on our team. He's also the CEO of True DeFi. So he wears multiple hats, and he knows not just the dev side of it, but he knows the operations and ownership CEO side of it as well too. So it's great to have someone like that on the team that can help be that crossover bridge the gap between those two groups of people, the ones that are dealing with the money and the vision, and then the ones that actually make that vision tangible. So and then last but not least is Lee, who is our Chief Information Officer. Mainly he handles a lot of the IT and technical type stuff that we're not great at. So I mean, and also to some of the bot things and how our community is able to interact, how we're able to monitor and see the engagement from our community as well as on Twitter. So he's pretty instrumental in those processes as well, and that makes up our core team.
Well, a fantastic team. Like, obviously, we've spoke to you guys, but behind the scenes, and what you say is true. I love to hear it. I love to speak to people with experience in the space, and having listened to a couple of your AMAs as well, bringing that professionalism into the space, which is sorely lacking, to be honest, in a lot of the projects that launch. That's not to say. I think it bizarrely it has improved as of late, even though with all these scandals ongoing at the minute. But the more we can improve that professionalism and treat it like a business, like you say, at the end of the day, these are startup businesses that we are running. Not everyone treats them like that, of course. A lot of people, unfortunately, do treat it a bit like a cash grab. But I know we're not like that, and I know you're not like that too. Actually, trying to build something from the ground up. So I think it's great. One thing to touch on from that, which is completely complete tangent, is we, I still find it strange as a Brit to kind of, when you talk about insurance and having to deal with the insurers, like being a headache, because obviously we don't have that over here. It's a very, very alien concept to me. I imagine it's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, boy, are you lucky. But yeah, the insurance system here in the United States is crazy. You're dealing with government sponsored insurance as well as private insurance, and then there's multiple levels of those. And day to day, it seems like some of those processes change, but also, when you start getting into the hospitals and the hospital systems and the practitioners, you start running into it being aimed at creating certain outcomes. So, if pretty much the insurance company pays for a certain thing and they expect a certain outcome and you don't reach that outcome, or somebody has, let's say a secondary infection or something like that occurs, they go, well, we're not paying for that. So then pretty much the hospital or whoever ends up having to eat the cost of that person's hospitalization because of that secondary issue. So pretty much what that comes down to is, instead of reactive kind of thinking, proactive kind of thinking. Takes a lot of strategy, takes a lot of management from not just a business side, but understanding the discipline of medicine and best practices so that you can marry those two together in the most efficient and effective manner. So very similar. It's the same thing, only different with this space. You're trying to marry together multiple disciplines, and that's the reason why quite a few projects are not successful, because it's not just hey, I can do cool stuff, or hey, I speak well in front of people, or hey, I'm good looking or something. It's how you can manage a company, how you manage a business, and how you're able to grow a brand, and create not just interest, but then execute on that and create results. So it's a good way. Although you say it's a segue, it's there's similar types of things that go into both those types of things, and it all kind of is under the umbrella of business.
Absolutely. Well, you got the business side of it and you got the problem solving side of it, right? Because even though you might not be the hands on the tech itself, you still have to problem solve. You still have to see where it fits into space. You still have to see what the people actually want, or in some cases, educate them on what they want. I know that sounds like a very strange thing to say, of course, but you think of big companies like Apple. Now I know they're polarizing, but no one thought they wanted an iPhone. Pretty happy with the phones they had, and then all of a sudden, everyone needs one. It's important. I think your product actually fits into that category quite a lot, because when you told me about what it is, which we'll get into in a second, particularly the swap this is, or the deck, sorry. Um, when you told me what it is, I was like, yeah, I do need that. Now you mention it, like, of course I need that. Why haven't I thought of this sooner? Which is a great space to be, that you kind of hit that niche, which isn't that niche actually. To be fair, is quite widespread. But with that, let's move on to the decks first, and we'll get into the launchpad second. Obviously, both of them can have links with Presale World. The launchpad for the moment, and obviously the decks later down the line. But talk us through the decks. Why is it special?
So, one of the pillars besides professionalism and transparency that we exude is superior utility. That's kind of the third pillar there. And it doesn't make sense in the space to make something that somebody else has already made. We kind of come from the background thinking that, everybody is kind of cut and pasting what each other are doing, and it's making it difficult for innovation when investor dollars and marketing and things are all going to the exact same thing as the next guy. So when we wanted to come to market and fix a problem. And that problem was contract sales for us. It's been something that I always believe in, that if you're going to show up new to a market, you need to fix a problem. You need to actually be something that's a necessity, a need. And that does take education. So with being a sellless exchange built into it, with the emergence and the growth that we're seeing in tax tokens, and I'm sure a lot of people who are involved with tax tokens, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say contract cells. And so you see those cells on the chart that happen to give rewards. But what you don't really see too often is the cells that have to happen on the chart because the business itself has to sell its own tokens that are filling in its wallet to pay for the lawyer, let's say the legal expenses to have something drawn up, or for marketing. Marketing might not want your random token. They might at best want maybe Bitcoin or BNB, but a lot of times they want fiat. So if your business wallets are filled with let's say $100,000, that's nice, but they're $100,000 in your own tokens, and you have to sell those, and essentially it makes a sell on the chart. So what's great about what we do is that we're actually able to be sell-less, and people who do business with Novation can be sell-less, and it gives them the ability to fill their wallets with BNB, which is not only a lower gas transaction, but it is also not going to produce contract cells on their chart. So it's a really great innovative thing. If you take a look at the site, you'll see, before you even use it, you'll see that a lot of work has gone into it. The user experience has like a Tron feel to it. It's pretty cool, but it works just as great as it looks too. And then we just last week rolled out a one-click cross chain, where pretty much we've got 6 chains so far, and pretty much you can pick any token in one of those chains, switch it to any token in one of the other chains. One click. It's got an aggregator where pretty much it'll find the best pathway to get from point A to point B in the cheapest manner possible. And then you trade, and there it is. So it's a really great offering. I think a lot of people who have to switch like that have to use these third parties that charge a ton of fees, or on top of that, they may end up having to use a centralized exchange. Well, this is a decentralized place to do it. You can handle all your business on Novation, and it's cheap and has great value for the investors.
I love it. Like I said before, I mean, you spoke briefly before about that kind of one-click cross-chain, which is definitely a problem that as a project owner we get, to be fair, or we'll see more of, particularly in the future when you get things like we're only launched on BSC, for example. But if you have someone launch on ETH, then buyback fees come into an ETH wallet, and then we have to send it then to a centralized exchange to do the swap, and then send the BNB back and do a manual buyback. Like it's all just hard work. It's all extra steps than necessary. Just to kind of go back to the soulless decks, which I really do love. I'm sure you can tell by the way I'm talking about it, but for people that don't quite grasp, I'm sure everybody's educated to a certain degree of how this works, but it used to be, so back in the day, and in crypto, 1 year ago is back in the day. It's long enough. It may as well be 50 years for how long crypto seems sometimes. What people did, or the more common thing for people to do, was hold a portion of team tokens, right? 15 million tokens out of 100 million or something similar. Then if the project ever needed to, a lot of these tokens didn't have additional utility to actually provide revenue. So what they did instead is sell their tokens in order to fund the project, basically, or make money themselves as well. which, like Chris is saying, is a downwards pressure on the chart, right? Because they have to sell their tokens via PancakeSwap, via that same liquidity pool. And then again, that's pushing the price down. So you're harming your own project. You want it to be successful, but you have to sell on your own investors in order to do well. So a few clever souls came up with the idea, well, actually, we'll make that automated. So what will happen is, 5% of the transaction will get sold. So what happens then is the contract accumulates these tokens instead. And at set intervals, it sells those tokens. So the sell still happens, but it's less of an impact. It's less of a risk because the team don't get to dump their all 15 million tokens at one time, for example. So it was an improvement. But what Chris's idea, or the team's idea, should I say, and I say idea, it's not an idea, it's a reality, this thing is built, is if you hold liquidity with Novation on the solar side at least, those contract sales do not happen because the token contract does not accumulate tokens at all. It's done in a different process. So the BNB is received, and there is no downwards price pressure from the contract, from the team, whatever, which I just think is an absolutely fantastic idea. And it's, like I say, I do think it's a missing thing in the market, particularly with tax tokens, because tax tokens, obviously we follow pre-sales quite a lot, as you can imagine. Tax tokens are kind of dying out is the wrong word, but they're not as popular as they were a year ago because of that exact reason, because you get that downwards price pressure. But actually, I don't have a big problem with tax tokens personally. I think they can contribute to growth. And obviously, if you're not getting the downwards price pressure on the chart as well, then it's double bubble as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's just a very, very good thing to do. So that was just me kind of, as we say in the UK, blowing smoke up your ass, Chris. But, I just think it's a great idea. And I do think there is a level of education, which I know you're going through by doing these AMAs. I'm surprised you've still got a voice with all the AMAs you're doing, but I assume that is the way you are going about trying to spread the word as much as possible.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think a lot of investors have just come to live with, and they go, well, this is it. In our newest white paper, we actually at the end have 2 pages. One is a scenario that shows the difference in sell pressure and having a utility and kind of what that means for the company and their bottom line right off the bat. And the other one is actually showing transaction by transaction what it looks like when there's a buy or a sell on the chart with based on how it's split by, like, let's say PCS and how it's handled by us. And you'll see with us, it actually will maintain, a buy will actually maintain, or a sell will actually maintain price, where you'll see in the other type of way there's less value in that price. And so overall you end up getting a more positive effect with not producing contract sales and having it be sellless in the end. And it's one of those things where you see it in numbers, and then you see it in dollars and cents. And I think overall we're seeing it in tokens as well too, that are tax tokens. You see the hype. Once the hype goes, you see, either a falling like a rock from the sky, or you see a slow, just downward descent. And part of that reason is just the sell pressure. So we try to do the best we can to show that to people, and so that they can understand exactly what's going on and why that shouldn't be the case with their project, and also help the projects retain value. And transaction fees, even taking a portion of transaction fees and being able to return it to the project as a new revenue stream, so that they can turn around and create value, even more value for the investors. So there's a lot of different things that we've really folded in as value, that we're trying to help the projects, we're trying to help investors, and do things the right way, set a good example in the space.
Absolutely. And, that's why, you know, well, we reached out to each other, and we kind of saw this. We saw, well, first of all, as soon as you explained it, well, I'm sure you could tell when you explained, we went on the voice call and you explained it. I was like, damn, like, why didn't I think of this? Because it is a great idea, but like you say, it's a great idea that needs to be executed. Ideas are cheap, is what I always say. Ideas are very, very cheap. Anyone can come up with an idea, right? I want to put someone on Mars. That's my idea. Actually, it's not as easy. You need someone like Mr. Musk, whether you love him or hate him, to have the ingenuity and the money behind him in order to push it forward. And it does seem like you guys are going about it the right way. Obviously, you've got off to an absolute blinding start, which is fantastic, without a lot of what people call the pillars of launching these things, right? So I'm just going to kind of pivot into that before we start moving to the other things. But I've seen that you guys on CG CMC, obviously you didn't do the pre-sale through Pink Sale, which is a common thing for people to do. Talk us through a little bit about that. I'm a bit an outsider about the situation, but is it to do with being a new DEX? You need to get registered with that first before you get the token registered. How does that all work?
Oh, well, I love talking about this because we're proud of it at Vault Finance. There's a misconception that if you're not on Pancake Swap, you can't survive. And there's a misconception that, oh, you're not going to launch through Pink Sale. You're not going to do your pre-sale on Pink Sale. There's no way. There's no way you're going to hit a hard cap. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there, like even about CMC and CoinGecko. It's like, oh, well, if you don't list on that immediately, how are you going to get the investors that are on there? Well, one of the things that we wanted to do was to lead in that too. And people told me I was crazy, but we used our own brand spanking new launchpad, and we raised over 1,200 BNB in pre-sale. We raised over $350,000. So we nailed our hard cap, and then we listed on our own exchange and not on Pancake Swap, and we've done very well, better than probably most in this, better than most in the neighborhood, in this market. On top of that, but as far as the DEX goes, it's considered, when you make a exchange, it's considered a private exchange. It's not public, and because of that, CMC and some of these places where pricing is used to pointing to, doesn't recognize you, doesn't know you're there. There are some out there that read specifically the blockchain, so you can get pricing from there. Your Bog Finance, Dex tools, things like that. But ultimately, you do want to end up on CMC when it comes to that, because so many of the other organizations use that as their basis for the pricing and such. So then the next step is like, okay, well, if you're going to become a public exchange, I'm not saying centralized, but if you're going to become a public DEX, how do you do that with CMC? Well, they have a long list of things that you have to do. Most DEXs don't end up meeting that, but we meet it. So we're actually in the process of getting that going, because it's important to us for the investors to be able to have pricing options, so that they can, based across everywhere that they usually uh, watch pricing and stuff, or wallets that gets pooled, and that they can see that. Uh, but as far as CMC goes, there's quite a few things that have to be met to be able to put your exchange on there, and obviously it's very stringent, because of recent occurrences that keep happening with central exchanges even. So, this FTX thing, CMC is doing some things internally, because they need to ensure that these DEXs and centralized exchanges, that they're very careful in doing business with them. So it's even harder now to be able to land that and be a public exchange, but it's something that we're going to be able to do. So we're excited about that. That's something that I'm looking to announce here pretty soon, once it's completed with. But that's kind of how it comes down to with the exchange. In the meanwhile, we are partnered with Lynx, which reads the blockchain directly. They have an app, and we're actually working some of their technology into Novation, so that when you go on there to trade, you can also pull up a graph of the different projects you like to follow. You can see, you can pretty much attach your wallet. You can see transactions you've done on that wallet, and even logging in, you can track multiple wallets and take a look at those portfolios, how they're performing. So it was a great thing that fit hand in glove with what we were doing. So we're utilizing links right now uh, for that, and soon it'll be on our exchange, and soon we'll have CMC as well too. So we're trying to make sure that we have options available that fit the needs and also what the investors want.
Yeah, I agree. And like you say, there is no immediate, we didn't have an immediate rush to get on CMC either for different reasons, obviously. But just because CMC is applied for on day one and then people get it in day one and then the project is dead after that, I mean, it just seems like nonsense to me, really. You know, wait until you're building enough core base, wait until you've got this community that is behind you, and then start pushing through and engage with a wider community, which I feel like we've both done, you know, very well. It worked out for us very, very well. CMC have been a little bit tricky, shall we say, in some areas, which, you know, I'm sure you're not going to point fingers, but probably found the same. But, you know, it is one of those processes you've got to go through. And once you get there, obviously, you kind of fall in line with, and that sounds a really negative way to say it, fall in line with what everyone else does. I don't mean that. You get that exposure to that wider audience as well, which is beneficial. No one can doubt that. But you don't have to do it immediately. Like, one thing I would say about the market at present, particularly new coins. So I did, I'm always looking at the data. And in terms of, I can't remember how many it was. John, can you help me out? How many launches were, how many new pre-sales started on Pink Sales? 130 something, wasn't it, in the past week? And after 7 days.
I think it was 127 had gone live on Pink Sale, I think it was.
Yeah, so 127 and 5 had only survived, been above launch price after 7 days. And most of them were only within the first few days. So, you know, and that's not project rugging, actually. A lot of that is this kind of investor fear, which projects have built up over a period of time and made investors scared to hold. And I think it is a problem. I think it's kind of switched a little bit. The rugs are definitely still a problem, and the projects kind of, but like I say, that professionalism is coming back. But you need to be able to build a base enough of these investors that aren't so scared because they, you know, trust you and the community that you build and the vision that you have. And it looks like you're doing that over there. And I say looks like, it definitely does seem like that. You know, you've had your booms, you kind of got those core holders, you're sitting at a great market cap, and then it's just the next leg up, really. We feel the same way about our project too. Just to move things along, so I know you have got another AMA, and we could probably, I know you love to talk, Chris, and I love to talk too. So unfortunately, we could probably take up 3 hours if we ended up doing this. But let's move on to that launchpad. So if anyone is unaware, number one, about what Presale World is. So we kind of like consolidate launchpads. I say consolidate launchpads. But if you go to presale.world, you'll see launchers from across launchpads. That's Pink Sale, Novation, Unicrypt, blah, blah, blah. You know, all there's 7 of them now. We also do have our own launchpad, and a few people have asked the question, or isn't that kind of a conflict of interest? You know, because you have a launchpad and they have a launchpad. But this is just coming from me before I pose the question to you, Chris. No, basically, the market share is so massive that hasn't even been touched, I would argue. I've said this in a couple of AMAs, that we're in a current situation where Pink Sale, which have done a fantastic job, in fairness to them, of growing such a large market share, even though they haven't even touched the limits of it. But they are now the monopoly, right? It's slowly falling down, actually, but they are the monopoly. And the way I see it, when the next bull run comes particularly, is that is going to be shared out a little bit. There's going to be different launch pads that give you different things. For example, Novation are going to be kind of this hub of projects that they vet, and it's not as public. It is public for people to invest, of course, but Chris, you'll be able to explain this much better than I can. And Presale World is a little bit more akin to Pink Sale, just with more automatic checks in it, if you like. So, and I feel that's what the space needs. It needs more launch pads with different ideas, so investors can have a look around and choose what they feel comfortable with, just like they do with their own risk management of projects. It should be the same with, you know, launch pads too. You shouldn't have to just go to one place. But anyway, I'll pass that question over to you, Chris. Like, what is special about your launch pad and where does it fit in?
Yeah, so you know, one of the things that we did with the Launchpad, and the Launchpad is kind of an accessory for our decks. It's not our main offering. It's not everything that we are at Vault Finance, but I thought that it was a good complement to the decks, and a good way for people to springboard across into the decks. But like our decks, our launch pad as well, you can't just stroll up to it and pair liquidity, or you can't just stroll up to it and start a pre-sale. We actually have to whitelist you to do it. And the reason why is because we want, one of the main issues in this space, and I kind of believe that one of the issues that Pink Sale is losing its market share is because there's a lot of rug pulls, there's a lot of things going on, and without any sort of vetting process, just letting anybody do whatever they want, it allows in the bad actors, and the investors get hurt. And because of that, the investors have flashbacks and they don't want to do business in certain places. So we want to, like I say in a lot of my AMAs, we want to be a champion for investors. We want to be a champion for the people, the investors and the projects. So in order to do that, we do due diligence, and we make sure that they have an adequate KYC, not any KYC, but that they have one that is, I'm not going to say accredited, but one that has merit to it. We make sure they have a third party audit. And I have a lot of conversations with the team to see what they're doing and how they're doing it and why they're doing it. It's not a perfect process. There's no way to do a perfect process where you completely eliminate any sort of deceit or lies out of people. But what I can do, and what I do promise, is that we do everything we can to make sure that if somebody lands on a pre-sale on our pad, or if they launch on our exchange, we make sure that they are, that we've really looked them over, and that they bring value to the space. So so when you get into the actual launch pad itself, what's the offering? What makes it unique, other than that? Well, I have a completely different system of how this launch pad functions. From the price of it is cheaper than Pink Sale, so that's always a nice thing. But again, value is my favorite word. I try to make sure that there's value for everybody involved. So first of all, right off the bat, Vault Finance does not take any of the revenue for itself, period. We use part of the fee, which is where revenue comes from, part of the fee, and that goes into helping the chart, helping this new fledgling project get up off the ground. So we give direct support. Number two, the other half of that goes to our Launchpad NFT subscribers. And so we have a lounge called the Launch Lounge. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to create an investor base that is organic, real people looking for pre-sales that they want to invest in. And so that's what we created. That's what that subscription NFT, this is a paying group of people that are looking for the opportunity to find a great pre-sale. So by doing that, the project not only gets help from us, but they've got somebody that they've got a group of people that they can present their project in front of and get investors for their pre-sale from there as well. So that's great benefit for the investors, because not only can they get into, possibility of whitelist spots, but half of that revenue getting shared between them is its own form of passive BUSD rewards. So it's a great system for everyone involved. It helps us fill our pre-sales and our private sales, and that's really where, for us, pre-sale world comes in, because you guys are building a great platform where it's a one-stop shop, where people who are looking for pre-sales can see, in one place, can see all of them that are going on. I don't have to jump around to different websites looking for what's about to come to market and what's not. and all of that. It's all in one place. And so it made sense for us to bring Novation and to add that value onto your platform as well too. It brings value to not just the current projects that are launching with us, but the future ones that launch with us. And I've really gone through a lot of work, a lot of negotiating, a lot of just talking to people and trying to make sure that we line up opportunities for these projects to succeed by giving them places where they can get great discounts on a Surtech audit or on a quality KYC, or great AMA lounges at a cheaper discounted price that are organic and great places where people look for projects. And then Presale world, which is going to be, you guys are already doing great and growing fast, but you're going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger with what you guys are doing. And it's great for us to be able to have that exposure and that partnership with y'all.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was. Well, I feel like we both felt exactly the same way. Really, number one, like you say, the pillars of integrity, if you like. We're looking at things from the same way, but also we are both growing businesses, and I say businesses on purpose because that's exactly how we're both approaching it. I love your product, you love our product, and it just feels like it's a perfect synergy. For us, if I'm just to kind of pivot to Presale world, to have the most value for an investor as possible, by adding something like Novation Launchpad into our search system is fantastic, because it means that you're visible, which is fantastic, obviously for Novation and whatever, but also for investors they might not have heard of Novation yet, and yet now they can, and they can still use Presale World because they go, it's one less place that I have to kind of dive around through. I can find Novation. And we are going to be adding the feature, by the way, guys, where you can filter by the likes of Novation or Pinksale or whatever you wanted to do, or you can, you don't want to include a platform. I'm not going to kind of stick my fingers up to any platform, but let's say there's a platform you don't particularly like, you choose that you don't want to see those pre-sales there. So we're going to have the options like that too. And like you say, I have the same ambitions as you, really. I have no doubt in my mind. Obviously, you have to take that with a pinch of salt and do your own research, guys. But I have no doubt in my mind that we're just going to keep growing and growing. And I really do feel that like that about you guys too. It is just a matter of hard work, which from what I've seen you guys do at the minute, I know we do it, but from seeing what you guys do at the minute as well is exactly what you're doing. Pushing it forward, continuously trying to put the name out there through whatever avenues you can. And then it is just time. Time is your best friend. Give it a month, give it 2 months, give it 6 months, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, all that work is kind of built up into one, compounded, and you're where you want it to be, or close to where you want it to be, for example. What I'm going to do, Chris, because like I say, I do appreciate that you got another AMA. I'm going to open it up to some questions from investors of Presale World, and I'm sure there's some from Novation too that want to ask some questions. So I'm going to do that if you're happy.
Yeah, that'll be great. I love questions. I love hard questions too.
That's what I like to hear. Right, I'm gonna do a voice one first, and then we'll pull some from chat. What I would say to everybody is, if you do have a bad connection, or for whatever reason there's a couple of language barriers, just put your question in chat. I will try and get to as many as I possibly can. There is a time limit to these things, so I won't be able to get to all of them, but feel free, if you don't get your question answered, do go ahead to Vault Finance. Oh, sorry, it is worth noting as well that I did get asked the question earlier, and I'm going to ask you this, Chris, before we kind of move on to the questions, is which one is it, Novation or Vault Finance? I know the answer, by the way, but I just thought I'd ask you.
What was that? Can you say that question again?
Yeah, so which one is it? Is it Novation or Vault Finance was what I got asked from the community. Now, I know that, but they got confused because I was saying we're partnered with Novation, and they saw Vault Finance on all the other things.
Oh, yeah. Vault Finance is our company. That is our token and our company. Novation, I wanted to give all of our utilities their own identity, their own branding. So Novation Launchpad and Exchange is what our Launchpad and Exchange is called. And then Sifter, our app that will come out later, that it has its own branding as well too. They have their own identity and characteristics about them.
Cool. Well, I hope that answered the question for a few people there, because, like I say, Vault Finance is what the way I see it is the overarching bit, and Novation is one of many different things that you guys are pulling through with the utilities. Let's open it up first to. Oh, people are dropping out a sec. I'll tell you what, Sniper Guy, you go for it first, mate.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Yeah, so let me just go through to my question. So, my question is, I usually read several use cases of NFT you are listed on your website, ranging from patronalized ownership of property to contract to gaming and many more. I want to know if there are also aspects you intend to get into later in the future. Did you get the question?
Yes. So if I'm rephrasing your question, just make sure I understand it. You're talking about some of the different things that we're offering, and then some of the things we might offer in the future. So, which is a really good question because that's timely from a conversation and a deal that I made and we set up yesterday. But so I guess I can throw that out there and premiere it on the Presale World AMA. But the NFTs, I'm not somebody who really believes in NFTs, especially them just being a pretty digital picture. So you'll find that in everything we do, there's value. So every offering we do, I've meticulously crunched the numbers. Every cost, I want it recouped for the investor based on that, and I want it to give them value for the different strategies of investing that's out there. So those NFTs, you'll find every NFT that's associated with Vault Finance has, some umph behind it. And I think you can ask probably any NFT holder that we have, they'll tell you that, they've either cleared what they paid for it or they're right on line to clear it. So we make sure there's a lot of value. But moving forward, we actually are looking to create a debit card. And so that's something that we're doing in collaboration with Reflecto. And, we're trying to do everything we can to grow this company, to grow the, market capitalization, to grow the token. And so we want people to be able to off ramp and buy goods and have actual real world use of it. And we're actually coming out with a debit card that can do things that other people have only dreamed of. So it's going to knock people's socks off. It's going to be real awesome. And so that's just one of the things that we have coming for people to keep an eye out for.
Absolutely loved it. That's amazing, by the way. I wasn't aware of that either. So that's amazing news. So, like you say, constantly adding new utilities, which is exactly what a project like this needs. To be honest, it's well, I'm going to change my phrasing there. It doesn't need it. It's what people seem to want. I believe that the growth of this alone should be enough, but people always, you release that news, as you well know, Chris, and go, okay, when news, what next? So the fact that you guys are still kind of pushing the boundaries is absolutely fantastic. There's a question in the chat which I really, really like. So I'm going to read that one out. Are you worried that when the market is unstable, your project will be difficult to develop during this period? So what will you do, and where does the current income mainly come from? And as we know, a lot of project dies because of FUDers, etc. So what is your strategy of dealing with this problem, basically? Do you think it's a bad time to build, basically? And where is your income/revenue streams going to come from?
Yeah, those are some good questions. So it gets into some of my belief system. For one, this is a cycle. It's a cycle for a lot of people in crypto. This might be their first quote unquote bear market, but things cycle like that all the time. You have bear, bull, bear, bull. It's something that you're gonna have to learn to live with. You're gonna have to learn to feed yourself in the bad times and feed yourself in the good times too. But as a business, what that comes down to is, there's a couple things you have to do right. so that you can be timeless, so that it doesn't matter what kind of market you're in. And one of those is to develop a good product and to develop something that people are actually going to use. And then that thing has to actually be able to make money. And that's where you see these projects falling short. And it's why when we first started this AMA, I said that, it's a multidisciplinary approach. You have to have all of these tools on your tool belt to build that foundation and build that house on it. And if you don't, if you only have one tool, it's not gonna work out. So for us, it's the way that we weather the bear market. And I wasn't afraid of launching in a bear market. Is, for one, this is a business, and a business has to be able to make money, which means I have to have a product or a service. So I don't believe in launching a business that can't make money. You don't see Walmart or any other grocery store open up its doors, have a grand opening, and say, "Okay, guys, I know that come on in. I know the shelves are empty, but don't worry. In 6 months, we're gonna have food on the shelves." That's just not that won't be done. Their doors won't be open very long if they did that. So it's kind of crazy in my mind to expect that a crypto project would be able to do that. Uh, no problem either. So uh, with that being said, creating Novation and us launching Listen on it, we wanted to show proof of concept and it to be available day one. So that is where our revenue comes from. Revenue comes from that exchange and swaps that are built front end for various projects that we have done before. We're also onboarding projects as well. So there's a lot of different things that we have going on that we're getting a great adoption on, that is creating good revenue and helping us to be able to be net positive in our profitability. Now, granted, we've only been through 1 month so far being launched, and we did raise a lot of pre-sale capital and private sale capital, things like that. So those have really helped us be able to develop these products to be ready day one. So the investors were in a very important part to that whole thing. But going forward, I want to, and also the tax system. This is a tax token, and the tax system has helped as well too to fund marketing in some of those wallets. But it's my prerogative to lower taxes to just rewards. And so we've lowered taxes once, we will lower it again here before the year is out. But it's my intention to get it just down to rewards, because it's not something that should be a burden on investors that are buying or selling. It's the businesses. It's the business's problem. It's their responsibility to be profitable, and so we will be reducing and removing that burden more and more off of the investors. And we've already, after 1 month, we've already shown investors that we're doing that. So that's the answer to that. And then the second part, um, I think there was a completely different second question to that whole thing.
Yeah, let me just get back to it. Sorry, one sec. A lot of questions. No, I think that's basically what you got. Yeah, exactly. So building a project during the bear market, just to be clear, Chris, I think it's actually the best time to build as well. I think it's the time that you build a proper community, and then when the hordes of people come, you're already there, you're already established for things to go absolutely crazy. And then where does your current revenue come from? So you answer both of them.
For sure. And then the other aspect to that is pairing to B&B. When your valuations and things like that, when you pair to B&B when it's on the lower end, that's going to, as it valuates and we come out of this low and we one day head into a bull market, and we do believe B&B will rise and go up, so will your valuation of your company and your token as well too. So, those are all, it's good timing for quite a few different things right now. You can't be scared, and you have to bring the value.
Absolutely agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. Right, Mr. Paul, hello, my man. I know you're there. Hello, Mr. Paul. See, this is why Telegram upsets me. Like, we can't hear you, unfortunately.
Hello.
Hey, mate, can
Can
hear
I
you.
go on with my question? Yeah, can I go on with my question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. So, I had a question, and it was gonna be about the Vault wallet, I believe. So, I believe that's in the roadmap. And firstly, is it gonna be coming out, shortly, that this year, or let's say mid or early 2023? So, apart from that, my major question was gonna be, innovate a wallet, into the platform. How is it gonna be generating revenue to the project, as well as, seeing that there are other sorts of wallets out there? How do you intend to, differentiate yourself, as well as, make people to actually use a wallet? Because this is where people keep their funds. And in crypto, people really are conscious of that before they actually use the wallet. So, how do you intend to actually innovate people to actually use those wallets, as well as give trust in it as well? So those are my questions.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I'm glad you asked it because it highlights some of the things that we've changed, some of the ways that we've postured ourselves as a company. Because if you've been following us since pre-sale and things like that, we were actually looking to have our first version of our wallet out day one. That was going to be another offering that we had, but in talks with Dive Wallet, who is a partner with us, I started to think a little bit about some of our strategy. Because, right now you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a project that has its own wallet, and everybody's doing a wallet. And it seems like a lot of people are just doing a lot of the same things everyone else is doing. So, in my mind, in my business mind, it it I have to take investor dollars, and I have to build something. I have to develop something. So if I develop a wallet, I pay the money, I put in the money and time to build a wallet, and then I have to put in even more money and time, significantly more money, to market it and try to get adoptability beyond the other competitors. I don't feel like that's good use of my time and efforts, and especially of the investors' money. But yet, project after project does that. Now, when you look at the wallet, how much profitability are you looking at with the wallet? Well, it's not huge compared to other things. So what I felt was that through a someone else's wallet, a Dive wallet, the wallet they're developing, we saw a potential to do a partnership with great people. For one, people that we believe in, that are great, that are building a great product. And that way we can help support in a synergistic manner other businesses to create a multi-business ecosystem that works together to drive adoption, versus me fist fighting them in the dirt for nickels and dimes. It ends up being something where we're more effective, we're more efficient in how we market and in how we spend development dollars. And that's the reason why we have not developed the wallet yet. So and we may not. I know that we have left it there on the roadmap, but I also have left on there a little asterisk that says that these times and what's on there may change. So there's a couple things on there that people do not know about, or there's a couple things that are not on there that people do not know about, that are platforms and utilities that we're working on secretly in collaboration, that will come out and knock everyone's socks off. But there's also some things on there that might get shifted around, and the wallet is one of them, because we have the opportunity to work together with another project that is quality to help drive adoption for both of our businesses.
Great question there. I love that. And a great answer as well, actually. I like it when there's actually thought that goes into something rather than blindly following, actually having a roadmap that means something, I think actually is probably the best thing to say about that. Let's swiftly move along, though, because there are some absolutely fantastic questions, and I love them. Some easier to answer than others. This is Pixieless. It says, let's say the token has a 10% tax and costs $1. I purchased this with 90 cents and 10 cents, let's say in BNB. So, $1. $1 and 10 cents going to tax, I think she's saying. How is the chart going to display a purchase of $1 rather than 90 cents? So I think what they're trying to say is usually what happens, of course, is it would be that it would still say $1 buy, right? But then the tokens that are sent back to the person, that's where the tax occurs, right? And they're just wondering how it will look. If they put $1 in, will it say $1 on the order book?
Yeah, so pretty much what happens on our end is what we're splitting and when we're splitting it. So I guess to put it simply, if you have $1 and you have a 10% tax, what we do versus what your typical project or your typical exchange is going to do, or pretty much every other exchange is going to do, is that when they take in that dollar, they're going to take all of the BNB and pull up a dollar's worth of tokens, and they send you 90% of those tokens, and they send the other 10% to the business wallets of the project. Now the question is why? Why did they split the project tokens? Well, it's because your project tokens aren't worth anything to them. The BNB is. You know what I mean? That's the third most valuable one. So that's worth money. So for on the investor side, it's not a big deal. You paid $1. There's a 10% tax. You got back 90 cents worth of tokens, and you say, okay, well, hey, everything's good. But on the business side, I got 10 cents worth of tokens. Well, that's not good because that's where we have to sell the tokens for rewards. We have to sell the tokens for whatever business as usual, things like that. So on our side, what we do differently is we have no problem splitting the BNB. We have no problem splitting the BNB and taking 90 cents and making 90 cents worth of the token, and the 10 cents going to the project. So does the tax alter comparatively? Yes, it does. But in the end, you're going to see more of a net positive effect because of it being sellless, and that's without taking into consideration variables like cells begetting more cells and things like that.
Yeah, this is the concept that I love. Really, is how it all works and where the BNB gets taken out. You don't need to share the intimate details, but that's the beauty of it, really. There's quite a few. There's so many questions here, which is absolutely fantastic. There's quite a few questions which are, I suppose, it's quite generic, but one that people want to hear, or at least hear what you've got to say about it. But how can you ensure that you should hold this token for the long term? I.e., when the going gets tough, which it can do, as we all know, what's to say that you aren't just going to give up and move on to the next thing?
Man, that is a really good question, because that plays into your grit and your character right there. So very good question. And so what I'm going to tell you is not financial advice. It's my own personal opinion. It's my belief system. It's my credo. It's what I do and why I do it. So for one, my drive. I love finance. I love crypto. I love helping people. I love building businesses. I love making money. I like doing all of those things. Now you see a trend of unprofessionalism, and you see a trend of just people not being competent, and people not being able to produce tangible results. And so what do? They cut bait and leave, or they just pick up the next thing until they kill that, and then the next thing, and that's bad for investors. That's how you lose money. So What you want to find is somebody who not only loves what they do, but you want to find somebody who can produce results. There's some people that they don't care how long it takes or how hard it is. They're the type of individual that they're going to grind and grind and grind till it happens. Now, I'm one of those sick, twisted individuals that I love the grind. I love when the going is tough. I love starting companies, and I love when the traction is difficult, and that moment when you start coming out of the quicksand and you start picking up steam. And that's where we're at right now. um, and you'll find I don't think anyone in our community will tell you anything different, that I am constantly at it. I'm constantly making connections, and I'm constantly building this brand and this company. And we're coming for PCS market share, so it's going to take strategy. We're playing chess, not checkers, and it's going to take it's going to take some real effort. And I'm in the mentality that, if PCS wants to keep up, they're going to need to hire some more people, because I'm coming for them. So uh, that's just how we operate. If you follow us in our community, you'll see that the kind of announcements we have, the kind of partnerships we build, and also, that we're not all talk and full of air, but that we're down to earth people that are trying to just make this space better and build a quality product that people are going to like. And I think investors, I know investors appreciate that. It's a breath of fresh air to see somebody who's going to roll up their sleeves, go to work, build something. And I really like the fact that we ran into, again, if you're a new investor and you didn't really see us past 7 days ago or 2 weeks ago, you're at a disadvantage a little bit, because the people who've been with us since pre-sale and been with us since private sale over the last few months, they really they've gotten to see us overcome obstacles. They've gotten to see us in tough situations, especially me have to go in front of the community and handle situations and handle these types of obstacles. And it shows our grit. It shows that we don't give up, that we don't cut bait, and that, we're not going to take no or failure for an answer, that we will overcome any obstacles, because it doesn't matter really how good you start off or whatever. You're always going to come across an obstacle. And there's people who, they love it when the going gets tough, because that's when they get going. And that's how we are here. And I really appreciate the tough times and the things we have to overcome, because it shows our community our grit. It shows them our resolve and the tenacity that we have.
Absolutely. Like I could, Nike, whatever you want to call them, couldn't have said it better with just do it. Like it's one of my pet hates actually is I said a minute ago, but ideas are cheap. They're very, very cheap. What's great and I love is grit and grind. And I love the grind. And it sounds like you do too. Like it's one of those things that if you don't love the grind, people aren't going to be in it. That's as simple as that. When the going gets tough, they're going to be out. But I like the day to day. I like it when it gets a bit mucky. And, I like it when there's problems to solve, because quite honestly, that's where I find things interesting. That's where, as a software engineer, I worked in startups and, I have worked for big MOD projects as well. But, that's what I love. I love that grind and that problem solving. And that's what this is, right? Building a company, building a business from scratch. There's so many different versions of that you'll have to overcome problems. You can ride highs. You'll have to, unfortunately, pick yourself up from the lows. But I completely agree. The grit and the grind is where it's all at for me. That, above everything, that is the most fun thing about all of this, really, is being able to get stuck in with like-minded people and kind of push forward. I'm just going to have one more question, because like I say, I do know that you've got more AMAs lined up. And I think it's probably quite a good one to end on, because it kind of leans into what you just said. But without proper marketing and capital infusion, the project dies. How do you convince us you have adequate marketing power and capital to push this project to the top?
Sure. So that's a very good question too. And I used to have a cookie cutter answer for pre-sale when we were in pre-sale, because our marketing strategy was a little different than it is now. And again, if you haven't been around in our community for a little while, you haven't seen me mold and change that strategy and where we're at now. But again, this is chess, not checkers. And so with that strategy, when we were coming to market, we have a multi-prong approach. Had approach with the community was the first prong. So the number one way, even now, that projects get seen is by word of mouth. That is the number one way by far. So that means people that are involved in your community, you want them talking about you. You want them having good things to say. So you want to encourage your community to interact with their friends, family, acquaintances, things like that. Interact with their communities to help you grow your community. That's kind of the first layer of the onion, you could say. Also, how we interact with the community matters too. If I'm an absentee owner, an absentee CEO, what does that speak to the community about, who we are and what we're doing? We don't leave people in the dark, and I make sure that I get back to everyone who writes me quickly, and anyone in our community will tell you that, and then that's important. I make sure our whole team is like that, because it's important that we're accessible to the community. So that's just kind of the community aspect. We do things on an almost daily basis. Like today, we had a little poker tournament. We do things to keep our community engaged and having fun and growing our chart, and everybody high fives and positive. And I make sure that our community room understands that we're professionals, and my expectation is that you're a professional too. You're the investor. I expect you to be tactful in what you say and do, and to be a professional as well. So everybody there minds their manners. They're a great community, and because of that, people get along, and we're able to focus on doing great things and not being negative to each other. With that being said, um, the second part of the marketing is our partnerships, right? It makes sense that I can't be awake 24 hours a day, even though some people in our community think I don't sleep. I do, and when I go to sleep, I still want my name in my partner's mouth. I want them to be saying good things about me. I want them to be speaking about me, because we do a good job and we are good people, and so partnerships matter, and they speak a lot about you. And we try to make sure we have partnerships with other like-minded individuals, because the saying that you are who you hang out with, kind of thing. It's the same thing. If we're doing business with scummy people, guess what? That's going to rub off on us. It's going to make us look bad, things like that. So we do business with good people, and we do business with people that we don't just bring value to, but they bring value to us. And it's an even relationship. It's not a one-sided relationship, because I'm sure everyone in this room's been in a relationship before with a spouse or a significant other. If it's one-sided, it usually doesn't work out. So business relationships are the same way too. And then our third layer is our professional marketing companies, our influencers, people like that who technically are kind of like partners, but they're our ambassadors. These are people who make it their business to market. And the professional marketing agencies have statistics that show you mathematically and numbers wise how to do well in this space. And that way you're not just randomly shooting money in different directions, but that you actually have a direction. And I'm the kind of guy that I look at ROI. I want to make sure that we're getting the best return on our investment of marketing dollars. It has to make sense. Slapping our name on a NASCAR might not be the best way to spend marketing dollars. Billboards definitely are not the best way to spend marketing dollars. So, different things like that, where the public or the investors might be like, "Oh, this would be cool, that would be cool." The numbers have to make sense, and so we're very strategic in how we do marketing. And so, as we have gained traction and come to launch and released our product, Now we have ambassadors that are wanting to do business with us. And so we actually have created these ambassador partnerships with Travlad and with Caesars, as well as Todd Hart and the Crypto Doc. And I'm missing one. Oh, and Miss Darcy Donovan, the crypto queen. These are all people who want to be associated with our brand and with Vault Finance, and to not only push Vault Finance, but Novation and Sifter soon when that comes, and release that information to the world. And so now our marketing strategy now is utilizing some of these ambassadors, because these ambassadors, that's what they do for a living, is they get the word out, and they've been doing a beautiful job of it. And so, with that, now we can start to aim at the higher end marketing strategies. Now we're not paying for shilling services or for boosting Twitter posts. No, our ambassadors handle all of that in the neighborhood. Now we're reaching for higher end type things like news outlets and TV, and deeper, bigger partnerships that reach into more influential spaces, where people, you reach into the billionaires that are making big business moves and have access to big brands. And so, marketing is a lot of connection making and growing like that. And so that is where our strategy is at now, and that's where we're starting to throw our weight around.
Love it. Love to hear it. Right. Well, we'll wrap up there. I appreciate there was probably 100 questions that didn't get answered there. So I'm really, really sorry, guys. But we'll still dish out the prizes. We'll dish out to some random question askers, which some of them were fantastic questions, as they always are, to be honest. And we'll dish out some to some random listeners as well. So do stick around for that. But thank you once again, Chris. Obviously, we'll speak soon. We'll come over to your community and talk a little bit pre-sale world as well. But we absolutely love to have you on board. I'm way behind everything that you're doing and can't wait to see what happens in the future.
Yeah, well, again, I appreciate you guys having us over to your home. All the investors that heard me talk and talk and talk, but I'm passionate about what we do. Our whole team is, and we love what we do, and we want to do it right. So I appreciate every opportunity we have to be able to share that with people, and also be able to share in the partnerships like we have with you. And, if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns, anything, feel free to DM me. Feel free to stop by in our Telegram room, ask questions. Our mods are great at what they do. If for some reason they don't know the question, or Rose doesn't know, or they don't know the answer, or Rose doesn't know the answer, they will ensure that it comes to me and that we get that answer very quickly for you.